Chuck. You said Chuck, didn't you?
Yep.
Well, here we go. Da, 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 da. Although I don't see me over here yet. Did I hit the button? Yeah, I did. We ought to be live real soon. Come on. There we are. He turned that off. Good morning, everybody. Dave, that Disney Dreams is here with us today. I see Chuck McNeil, Brenda Pruitt, Tina McNeil, Car Key, and I thought I saw, and Mark's here. Look who found his way back to Wyoming. He got on that big metal bird and it took him right back home.
And man, was that an adventure.
Before I forget it, I want to have a little bit of business here. Happy anniversary to Tina and Chuck. I don't know if I caught the year, but I think it was yesterday or one day this week. I saw a Facebook posting, I believe. So
I signed up for the donuts today.
Who did? You did?
Well, it says I did. I don't remember.
Looks like you said, well, he didn't know. She wants a chocolate frosted one.
No, so I signed up to do the donuts.
Well, that's how that works. You know, if you ever got a sign, if you ever missed a meeting at work, you know how that works. You always get assigned something if you're not there. So apparently you got a sign. 38 years. Who'd have thunk it, Tina says.
I'm trying to think just how far I'd have to go to get donuts. I guess I could get
Ohio.
I could get them in Rock Springs. That's about 75 miles away. I could get them there.
Yeah, if I went, I can get some quick. I can get some about 20 miles away, the better ones. But the only thing I can get around here may be the scattered Krispy Kreme that was delivered.
I could go to the Ridleys in Cameron and get you some Hostess.
Oh, we were just talking about that. Might have been one weekend you were gone. We were discussing. Somebody was talking about Hostess Twinkie donuts. They wanted chocolate ones. I said I always kind of liked the white powdered ones for a long time. Then I got to where I didn't like them as much, but I liked the ones that had some kind of, they were crumbly on the outside.
They had kind of coconutty stuff on them.
Yeah. So we can have a whole variety.
And Dave loves Hostess donuts, and so do I, Dave.
I've eaten one or two in my life.
I can eat a Hostess chocolate donut better than a lot of donuts I've had.
Well, especially if you get them when they're pretty fresh. I mean, they last a good while. I'm not saying they don't. Oh, Tina wants a ho-ho. Brenda likes ho-hos too.
Well, I was at Mom and Dad's, and the Amish have a bakery just up the road.
Yeah.
And man, did we get some good pastry there.
I got to go there next time I visit.
I got cream horns like this big.
Oh, God. Oh, my heavens. I take my king dongs. King dongs. I don't know what king dongs are. But let's be honest, I won't turn anything down. Well, Tina, if you looked at me, you'd know that I hadn't turned down many in my life either.
Carol, I've seen people literally get in fist fights over those Hostess cupcakes with the little swirly deal on the top.
Man, I used to get.
I was in a camp one time, and somebody stole somebody else's Hostess cupcake.
Oh no, you don't do that.
And it was battle royale.
It'd be like stealing Wild Bill's chocolate chip cookies, or what? Were they chocolate chip? No, or oatmeal? Maybe they were oatmeal.
They were oatmeal cookies.
Yeah. Middle of the night, all you could hear was pots and pans rattling. It sounded like a tinker coming up the road in his wagon.
Where's my goddamn oatmeal
cookies? Boy.
And some young man running for his life.
Dave. Yeah, some young man running away. Running away fast.
From a lerp.
Yeah, from a guy you don't want getting a hold of you. Duck's right. Ding dong's speaking. I'm eating one right now. Dave, you didn't bring enough for everybody else. No, Ding Dong's not King Kong's. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Sorry,
Ding Dong.
King Kong threw me off.
When my wife's really mad at me and I've done something stupid, she'll call me a ding dong. You ding dong.
Well, yeah, sometimes it fits, sometimes it don't. Adventures by D. I said welcome in, but I called you by your short name, so excuse me, Mr. Dave. And also, I was just on I was doing the texting thing with our buddy Phil, and he was telling me that we had a huge tornado event just north of us last night. We didn't have it. Fortunately, it was I hate to say fortunately, that sounds like I'm wishing it on somebody else, but just over the mountains in Kentucky, where it ended up was probably not that far north of us. I'd have to measure it, but close enough, and it was kind of scary. But they said it was on Phil said he read this morning that it was on, or maybe he was watching it last night actually while it was happening. It was on the ground for an hour and a half. You guys think?
And it only went 75 miles. And
only went 75 miles. Of course, that's it's mountainous in there, so it was up and down. It might have gone a lot further than that, really, but that's the airline distance was 75. But can you imagine it bouncing through hollers, just all up in that Kentucky? I mean, up in Rockcastle County and in that area. I think it went through. He listed the counties it hit. It went through at least 2 different counties.
What was that drainage that Dix Creek flowed into that came down off of the mountain off of Unaka?
Limestone Creek?
Maybe that the main drainage that the highway ran up, and then we would turn off that and go up Dix Creek.
Well, that was Limestone. I don't know. Wait a minute. They called that Limestone Cove. Dang, now Rock Creek. Wasn't that Rock Creek?
It might have been Rock Creek anyway.
That's Rock Creek.
That was the first place that I personally learned that tornadoes could happen in the mountains. Because remember that when it went down through, you guys might have been living in Smyrna.
Yeah, we may have already been gone when that happened.
I mean, you were still coming up and hunting.
Yeah, yeah.
A tornado went uphill, basically, just destroyed that valley. There was nobody that lived up in there then, and may not be today. But it was just wood. It was just woods, but it looked like the Somme.
Yeah.
Or something. It looked like there'd been trench warfare in there for.
And you got me wanting to pull up a map again. Hang on.
A gazillion years.
I was just thinking about what you said. I hadn't been across there in forever. There's two main mountain crossings in that area. Spivey Gap and what's the other one called? I don't even know if this will show what it is or not. It's not such a big deal anymore.
Good morning, John. Yeah, give your brother a call.
Yeah, well, he should be okay though.
He wasn't up in the death zone.
No, he wasn't he's not far enough he was south. He's not that far north of us. He was between us and it for where Brenda and I are, then John's brother, and then the tornado area. That was it.
And then did you tell me there were 9 confirmed
Nine
dead
confirmed dead
so
that I
far?
read so far. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, and I'm sure they're still looking for people. If they are not, I'd be incredibly surprised.
Well, if the good Lord ever wanted to cut a piece of country a break,
that maybe that'd be it. Or this,
Eastern Kentucky could sure use a break.
they sure could, because they've had a hard couple years with floods and
Oh, heck, it's been going on for half a decade now. It's just they keep getting pounded by these weird storms.
Yeah, you might be right. It's been going on for a while. And and some places up in Virginia, and a few places up in upper East Tennessee above us a couple years ago. Parts of Greene County and on up like Carter County and up in that area. I can't think of the other county. They got slammed like that too. All the creeks, everything up there got up. Not as bad as the mountains got it last year. Well, more people were probably affected, but it wasn't quite as horrendous as that was, as far as high water and all that. But it was bad.
Yeah, the southern and central Appalachia could use a bit of a breather.
Yeah, I think we probably could. We've been lucky not to have. I was listening for it last night. I didn't sleep good. I kept waiting for a big one to hit here, because they said it might hit us about, well, not that one, but major thunderstorms. They were just calling for some rough thunderstorms here. They weren't saying the tornado word yet, and I kept waiting. They were supposed to hit here about 2:00 this morning, I think, but I never did hear anything that serious. We had some. I kept listening, because again, I could hear the storm kind of rolling up the valley here, and I could hear the wind, but I was also hearing the I swear I was like hearing the thunder. If I would have been an old Dutch man in like 1603, I'd have thought that all the giants from heaven above were walking up the valley. They were, where the Tina can probably speak of this better than I can, but that New York and some of that Dutch area had where a lot of superstitions were. And apparently those people, the ones that came over directly from Holland or were recent immigrants, had a lot of fear of big storms and stuff. They did not like that, and had a lot of tales to tell about it, which is where some of those the rolling pin, I can't think of the word. Okay, let me look and see if somebody else has already told me. Hey, well, you said John was here. The zoo got hit bad. Oh no, is zoo here? Where would there been a zoo?
In Kentucky?
In that part of Kentucky. Oh, there might be one there now, but that seems
that's just not right.
It don't seem right down in there. Maybe some of that area has grown up. I mean, Phil's sister and brother-in-law were just got missed. They live in that area.
Oh, so they are good.
Yeah, he talked to them this morning. Let's see. He told me. I thought he told me how far it missed them by. And he said we had one at Tellico Plains here last night. I haven't checked on that one yet. No. Sister's okay. It passed just south of them. So that's good. Anyway, be thinking about all those poor folk. Poor little Chloe went under the bed last night. I'm sure she did. I'd say she stayed there. I mean, we had some light storms that came through, but we didn't have what I expected us to get, which I'm glad for. I kept thinking that we'd get a big hail. We're going to get a big hail event, thunderstorm with hail and all that stuff. Yeah, it beat our roof off and bust the car up. I'm just worried about that. Tina said the zoo was in St. Louis. Oh! I saw it. Yes, that hit yesterday. That's right. I forgot about that. I think yesterday in the afternoon, maybe. Yeah, part of St. Louis got nailed. That's right. The different. Well, I don't. It's probably the same front, but that happened earlier in the day, Chuck. That's right. I forgot about that. I read something about that on the internet yesterday. Funny you mentioned that, Tim. Just found paperwork going back to 1636. Kingston Hurley's and Ulster County Dutch Reformed Church stayed with my father's side. Really, John? That's fascinating. Did you hear that, Mark? Oh,
I did not.
Read what, let's see here. Read what John just said.
That's cool.
That's so cool. You have to tell us more about that, John. I that kind of stuff fascinates me. If I'm ever going back.
I have unleashed the dogs of war.
The dogs of war. The dogs of war.
I got a big piece of chicken.
Brenda's, this wouldn't be funny to everybody, but it's kind of funny to me. The Ark, you saw the Ark, didn't you, Mark? It's up in that part. It's not far from there in that part of Kentucky. Actually, it's a little bit north of there. She said maybe it took off in all the storms.
You know, they got that'll learn you. I'm trying to eat something.
Oh, well, what went in the floor? Because the dogs are eating that.
It was the lid off the pickle jar that I
okay. Oh, you're eating pickles.
And chicken. Does that mean I'm pregnant?
I think the ice cream, the pickles mixed with ice cream for that. Although Brenda ate some strange stuff.
Florida, that's a bad pickle.
You're out of order. The hurricanes so back my black travelers. So they're going to have you're predicting a lot of hurricanes in Florida, Dave. Is that what you're saying? That something didn't come out right there. Or maybe I just can't read it right. I think maybe putting emphasis on the wrong words.
Tim said there was a zoo in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, that's where the zoo was. I forgot. I don't know if you saw that, but storms came through St. Louis, Missouri area yesterday afternoon.
Well, that's what I was telling you earlier when we were talking. I was talking that Ryan Hall, y'all, said he was watching that little cell that was building over Somerset, and he said this is the one we really need to watch, and it was tiny. And the storm that was up by St. Louis went all the way up the Ohio River through northern Kentucky and southern Illinois.
Yeah.
And then there was another cluster to the east over northern Kentucky and southern Indiana. And it looked like that was going to be a disaster. It was really bad air.
I saw a bunch of stuff
I just flew through there. I mean, that's right how we fly home. It's right through that strip. And it was interesting this time, comparatively.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can. Yeah, tell them about your trip home.
Well, I mean, the trip there was dead calm flat.
Got you, Dave. I figured that out after a minute. I just hadn't said it yet.
The trip back to Wyoming was a little bronky.
Pretty bronky, yeah. Mark told me that. Did you say that was the worst trip you've ever had in a big airplane or not?
Second.
Second.
The first one was the one where the plane dropped half the.
Oh yeah. That's right.
Boy, that one was rough. But this one was. Once we got to the plains and the mountains, it got.
Well, do you know what you were flying on?
We got way bronky. I don't know, some big old Delta airplane.
But it was a big jet, not a commuter-sized jet. It
was a normal passenger jet.
Yeah, well, I think I flew out there when I came out to see you. I think the longest part of my leg was on a regional jet, which was still bigger than the old little commuters used to be. But it's
I can't remember. Did you fly into Denver and then to Salt Lake, or did you?
I had to stop somewhere.
Well, we only fly with Delta because we can fly right from Salt Lake to Hebron, Kentucky, direct, and don't have.
I actually. Oh no, I wasn't on Delta. I was on. And I don't fly. I had never United. Had never flown United a lot. I never did really care to that much. But they're about the only thing I can get from here, Knoxville. It'll take me out there, reasonably direct.
Right.
But I was on a. You know what? I can't remember where I stopped. I did have to stop somewhere on the way out there. I don't know if it was Denver, but it could have been.
Well,
I didn't have to ride the trams at Denver if I did, so it must not have been Denver.
They hub out of there. Well, yeah. You probably would have landed at the whatever they call that your other plane left out of, without having to take the train.
Well, that's possible.
Concourse. You probably landed at the same concourse that you had to change over.
Maybe. So, Dave, how bad are they thinking it might be? Are they predicting numbers of hurricanes or just size or power or whatever, how they rate hurricanes down there? I tell you what, I don't know how Florida ever gets rebuilt, to be honest. I guess that keeps a lot of people busy because the last 10 years, I've seen a lot of big hurricanes go through down there. Well, back even in probably the last 20 years, it seems like they don't go too far apart without having some big ones. And it just tears things up.
Makes some good fossil hunting, though.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would that. That's true.
And bottle hunting.
We watched fossil. Somehow or another, Mark got turned on to these fossil hunters that live down there.
I didn't get to you. Yeah. Somehow or the other.
Somehow somebody must have linked him in or something. I don't know. AA goes to Dallas, Fort Worth. United goes to Denver from here to go to Montana and Cheyenne. I used to fly AA a lot out of Nashville. When I was in Nashville and before I left Nashville became an international hub for American Airlines. So you could go just about anywhere you wanted to go in the world out of Nashville on AA back then. But a few years after we left down there, they just shut that all back down to a regular airport. I don't know if it's still international even or not, but it's not a hub for AA anymore. They even had some maintenance going on there. Thank you, John. I was dealing with damaged dog and dog bed laundry, but I didn't have a clue.
Didn't figure out what Tim was talking
about with the Dutch. Sorry, Tina.
No, Dutch.
Dave said he's still trying to recoup. Don't need them hanging out. Out of order sign for Florida. That'd be bad, considering what Florida's. But that's not just Florida anymore. East Tennessee would about go broke too if they hung out that no bueno sign for too long. Because if it wasn't for the tourist trade around here, there'd be a lot of people out of work. Even like something like Dollywood is probably one of the bigger employers in this area, immediate few counties, and then there's stuff bigger when you get up into Kingsport, Johnson City. But Well, I say bigger. I don't know. I don't know how many people they employ there. Several thousand, I'm sure. The biggest employer in East Tennessee that I remember know of to this day is Eastman. Well, it's not called Eastman Kodak anymore, but Kodak in Kingsport. I think it's Kodak. Maybe it's just Eastman. They changed the name one way or the other.
They, yeah, our corner was always, from a job standpoint, was always pretty industrial.
Yeah.
And once you got down to Pigeon Forge and Sevierville and places like that, it went completely to the tourist.
Tourism.
Even shoot, 50 years ago.
True. That's true. All that area was mainly tourism driven. You and I don't know how long it's been since you've been in that part of the country, but it's even the last time I took you fishing down there.
That's the last time I've been there.
How many years ago has that been? 30? No, almost.
No. We were there, and Kirby and I flew back there, and we went in 2004. I think was when I went
years,
to. I went to that conference in.
You were in North Georgia,
and at the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
And then he and I were both presenting papers there, and then we had to go. We didn't have to. We got to get a rent car and drive over to you.
Come see me.
And then we went fishing.
We did. We caught garps on a fly rod.
Caught a gar on a fly rod. That was cool.
That was actually a lot more fun than I thought, and I never thought they'd bite.
I never thought that you could hook it.
I wouldn't. Growing up, I didn't even know about that kind of a stream having gar in it like that as fast as it moves. That just doesn't seem garish to me.
Well, they were leopard gars or spotted gars or long noses. They weren't the big guys. They weren't the big guys that we hunted.
No, they weren't the big guys. That's true. And they might come all the way up from Douglas, actually.
But I have wondered since that day if the body could go down to where the bluebacks lived and take a fly rod.
Oh my goodness. Wouldn't that be something?
And hook one of them big devils up. That'd be cool.
You'd already have to use some kind of a steel leader.
Yeah.
But that could
they got touchies.
Because they got touchies. Don't believe me, just reach out there and grab one by the snoot. Just grab him by the snoot.
I didn't have him very long, did I?
Oh, mercy. Okay, I know I've got something else I was going to show before I go into I had a whole big plan. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'm going to show something else. You guys can't hear this, but if you lived with me, or if I took my microphone outside, you could hear the cicadas. We are having our 2025 Brood 14 cicada bloom. And they are loud outside right now. They sound like I think they sound like the I don't even know what to call them. I always thought they were machines, but the creatures on oh crap! What was the Orson Welles thing? War of the Worlds. Those flying monsters, or I never understood if that was some Martians or something flying spacecraft, or those are the actual creatures. Either way, that's what they say. That's what these things sound like to me. And so I'm going to show that real quick and the map. And I'm not sure anybody else in this group today has any in their area. I thought Tina and Chuck might, but they don't go that high. So this big guy, we've got these big red-eyed jar flies / cicadas in our backyard. And they're really up a little higher on the hill, but they've definitely moved down. They get up high in the trees and they sing their song and draw their girlfriends. And and the males are the ones that do all the howling, and the females, come to visit, and then they lay their eggs in the bark. Well, no, they don't lay their eggs; they lay them in the ground, and they hatch out eventually into the a little wormy larval stage, and then they go from that into the next or pupa stage, and then a larval stage, I guess. And eventually they crawl out of the ground and they look like this case right here. And I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have seen these guys. They look like this on the side of your trees and your flowers and your Brenda's raised garden beds and things have these shell cases all over them. And then when they come out of that, they look like this. John, have you ever fished with these things by chance? I know there have been times when those things would hatch, you just about couldn't catch anything until they were gone because the fish would hang out under trees and stuff just waiting for them to drop. Yeah, we have them, but not nearly as bad as you folks do. So you do have some, Tina. This particular brood, there's a good picture of cases with the adults. What crawls out of this case is this guy right here. And this is the map that shows where at least the main centers are. I can't remember who's doing this particular map. It's called Cicada Safari, but it's with one of the universities, I think. But there they are, they're working with St. Joseph out of Cincinnati.
Well, I'm sure, we never got to get outside.
Well, it looks like part of Ohio's got them. You'd be right in here, wouldn't you?
Yeah, Mom and Dad's place is right there in that point.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Right. Yeah.
So but there weren't any there. We were there for 10 days or
well, we just started getting them in the last week, less than a week. So up that far further north, they may not be out yet, but they probably are by now. These blue dots
always have some.
Oh yeah, you always have some.
There's those big green ones that we always call them jar flies because you catch them and put them in a jar.
Because that's what you do when you're a hillbilly.
I've fished with them. My cousin fishes with them pretty regular.
Yeah, when they're not doing this full brood stage, that's what I was saying. You can catch stuff with them when they're like this.
We have them here in the state. We have a species that lives in the sagebrush out here.
Oh, do you?
It gets to be, that's kind of cyclic, but it's not as far apart as 17 years. It's like, every 3 or 4 years we'll have cicadas.
The trick.
I have tied up big old hair bugs that look like cicadas to fly fish for trout with on the green.
Somebody I knew did that too.
And man, do that! It's like topwater bass fishing when you're doing that. It's crazy.
Well, when they're like I said, when they're going full bore in a hatch like this, the fish are just sitting under trees, picking them off as they drop in the water around the lakes here in the river edge. And, that's about all they'll eat for, 2 or 3 weeks. Usually, I don't think it seems like they're here forever, but I don't, normally the hatch and everything doesn't last more than 4 to 6 weeks. We had them real bad one year when I lived in Nashville. We had a big, big hatch. And when we would go outside to test run our airplanes, because we were running a turboprop airplane that had a high pitch kind of a sound in the intake, it would attract these things and they would literally flock to those airplanes by the thousands and just cover them up, when they'd get in the prop wash and, get blasted down the turnpike but then they'd get sucked through the engine. But what was bad was when we had certain operations, somebody's usually outside the airplane. testing something or running something, and we had a guy that did our prop balance. We balanced propellers running on the engines, and you had to stand out near the, one of the wing tips. And on our airplanes, that's not very far from the engine. A safe distance, but not far, 10 feet, 15 feet max. And anyway, he would get covered up with those things. And he did not like bugs and things like that to begin with. And it drove him nuts. And he would come in so mad and just cussing those things. And he just about got to where he'd refuse to balance props because he hated it when they were, and they got big old, sticky legs and stuff. So when they're crawling all over you, it's probably not that fun a feeling for some people.
Tina asked if they eat everything in their path. I don't think they
No,
even.
they don't.
I don't think they even feed.
No, these guys don't.
As adults, they don't. They only live like a couple of weeks after they emerge.
Yeah,
I think they just come out and reproduce, and then the critter that lives in the ground that's in that case, that's what eats stuff, roots. Yeah. Roots and berries and twigs and nuts and whatnot. You'll Gibbons food.
But I've never really heard anybody say they do great damage to the woods or anything.
No, I think they're totally necessary.
Yeah, good point. Probably are. I used to think that's what would happen, Tina. I used to think as soon as these guys, because of course growing up, I knew the old folk up home called them locusts, swarm of locusts.
Yeah.
But, and I used to think they would do that, but they don't.
Doesn't appear like it.
Apartment makeup.
My wife is getting accosted by dogs.
Oh, I hear them. I saw something. I thought it was on this page. It's going to show. One of these pages has a really cool pattern to fold up an origami cicada, but it's not on this page. I meant to find that so I could pop it up. Oh well, must be on a different map I had up. Anyway, I just thought these guys were. I'd show you that because, like I say, they're outside just raising Cain here now, and
yours aren't black with red eyes like that. I always called those devil locusts. They just look creepier than a jar fly.
Yeah, different thing, Carol. But those locusts exist out west. The ones
those are grasshoppers.
Yeah, they're like giant grasshoppers, or big. They're big grasshoppers.
The locusts that were in the Bible were giant grasshoppers.
Right. I will, Carol.
And we will have a hatch of, they call them lubber grasshoppers, Lubber, and they're big, great big grasshoppers, big, and some of them are real wide across the back. They almost, when they hop, they almost look like a toad instead of a grasshopper. And I can tell you, they can eat their body weight and stuff quickly. Wheat crops, whatever.
Yeah, they can. Well, that's also the critter that is famous if you read some history. That when the Mormons showed up in the Salt Lake area, they had a big, and that's where they were all. They said the seagulls came in and ate them all.
Well, that's grosser. Those critters are grosser than locusts.
Oh, I agree. I can't stand them.
They're those Mormon crickets are.
Oh, was that what was eating up their crops though?
That's what they ended up feeding on, because the Mormon crickets emerged and ate their crops, kind of like we had those mole crickets here a couple years ago. But the Mormon crickets would eat their crops, and then the local tribes, like the Paiute, would tell them, like, well, eat them then. They're good. And they did.
You didn't try any, though, did you?
No, I've eaten grasshoppers. What is that? Some kind of candy? Grasshopper. Our boys won't take to eating bugs. Name that movie.
Well, grasshoppers is kung fu.
No.
No.
And Lonesome Dove.
Oh, oh,
When they're looking for a cook, he's
gotcha.
the old Hispanic guy gives them some grasshoppers on a stick and they eat and like, dang, that's tasty. What is that? Some kind of candy? And he said
See, I
grasshopper.
don't know it as well as you do. I've just never watched it enough time.
He said grasshopper, and Gus kept eating his, and Carl spit his out and said, "Our boys won't take to eating bugs."
Yeah, I used to watch a lot of. I guess I don't know if it was just Food Network, but travel shows where they go, to all these foreign countries, and a lot of them, if you go into especially in Southeast Asia and that part of the world, they eat a lot of bugs.
They ate a lot of bugs.
And it's always amazing to watch these guys walk through the street markets where they sell food on the streets. And, there would be a wagon or a cart there, a booth set up, and they'd have just a variety of bugs on different kinds on sticks, everything from scorpions to ants. It seemed like it was, lots of crunchy bugs. Carol, did you want me to show that? And then the next question is that you as a young child? Carol sent me a picture.
It's one of her kids.
Oh, it's one of your kids? You want me to pop it up?
Kids.
I think I can pull that up easily.
Circa 2006, it says.
Oh. All right, what's this? Watch me pull this rabbit right out of my hat.
Nothing up my sleeve.
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto. Whoa! Must have been the wrong hat.
Look at that.
Looks to me like everybody there's got a cicada shell case in their hand. Oh, that's my oldest in 2006. Wow. So everybody had them a cicada case to take to go to show and tell with. Cool. I was trying to figure out what they're leaning on. For a minute, I thought that was some kind of a skinning bar thing, where you hang up and hook on each side. Mark knows. I know you've seen. You know what I'm talking about. I think like a spreader or
a gab.
Yeah, I've got a metal one somewhere around here. In fact, I just moved it the other day. I think it's in the garage.
Some people call them gambles. Some people call
them
gambrels.
Gambrels, yeah.
That looked like they were sitting in the back of an old El Camino or something.
She said it was just a kiddie picnic table. Well, thank you for sharing that, Carol. Sorry. Oh, well, you've probably had it for a few years. If you took it with, depending on what you took it with, that's a thing a lot of people don't realize about color photography. Most of it is not really archival. And my mom, we've got a lot of pictures that my mom took. She loved her Polaroid instant camera because it was instant. And she took pictures and pictures of everything with that thing. And now a lot of them are turning kind of colored like that. And it doesn't matter really if you have them out in the light or out of the light, but if you got them out of the light, they last longer. But even then, they start to fade. That color starts to go away. That's why good old black and white's still the best. What about that? That was in the back patio. Now I kind of wish I had an El Camino. Well, if anybody here watched the TV series on what was it? Not A&E. The Dark Wind series, and that show, she drives a pretty nice El Camino. Officer Jim Chi.
But his truck's not, his rig's not near as cool as Leaphorn's is. So
no, not nearly so. But that's his personal vehicle. Is his El Camino.
The El Camino.
I kind of liked having El Camino, or as we called him, El Ranchero, the El Ranchero. That what Ford's version of that was a Ranchero. I don't know if Dodge ever made one of those things or not.
I don't think so.
I don't think they did. I wouldn't mind having one in some ways. I used to laugh at them. We used to call them car trucks and make fun of them because they weren't real. They didn't know what they were. They didn't know if they were a car, and they didn't make a real truck. So, but I can see a real use for those things now. I could throw lumber in the back of it, run down to the tractor supply and get dirt for Brenda, or I could see it having a lot of benefit. Okay, now let's see. I think that was all my special goodies. So I started out working on I changed the show, Mark. If you noticed that or not. He's muted for a minute. I changed the show. I don't know if you've realized that yet or not, but yesterday I just couldn't get my act together to get the show.
The show to what?
Well, let's just say it's another squirrel hunting. That's why I've not gotten in a hurry to show these extracurricular things here. Because today I decided.
I could talk about tornadoes in Kentucky.
Yeah, and we can, and I may pull some of that up in a minute. But I thought I would change this just a little bit more. Carol said they called them crooks.
Crooks.
I've done squirrel. Usually, when I don't have anything else to talk about, I throw squirrel hunting in there now, and everybody knows the regulars know that means we're kind of bouncing around. And but it usually has something to do with squirrels. I mean, I usually bring squirrels into it. So I brought squirrels into this one, and I did it in a little different way, as you'll see. And I hope everybody brought picnic plates and forks and knives and bibs, because you're going to need them. Everybody but Carol. Dang, Carol, you're just going to have to watch. I love this picture of these two. This could be me and Mark as young kids. Squirrel rifles in hand and squirrels hanging all over.
I don't know what Brenda's asking.
What's Brenda asking? Here's a squirrel guess who played Humpty.
Don't do this week.
She's talking. She's doing talk to text, and it ain't coming out right. Here's a squirrel guess who played Humpty.
It don't ever come out right. Everybody I know that uses that, it comes out in Klingon or something.
Guess who played Humpty Dumpty this week? I have no idea who played Humpty Dumpty. And you give us a hint. Where?
And why?
Tina said, "Are we eating a squirrel?" You bet, Tina. Yeah, I got pictures and recipes. You bet you figured it out. We're gonna eat some squirrels this week. We're not just gonna talk about it.
Tina said, "Tim, did you play Humpty?"
Oh, I didn't play Humpty. Oh, wait a minute. Brenda played Humpty Dumpty this week. That's who did. Carol figured it out. Yeah, Brenda took a tumble off the back porch while I was up here, and she was on the far end of the house, so I didn't even know she had fell until she managed to crawl her way, because she didn't have her phone with her. So she crawled back into the house and called me and said, "Help." Yeah, I'm still trying to decide if I need to take her to the doctor, and she may end up there yet. She took I'm thinking a nasty little spill off. Our back porch is concrete and blocks, I guess, but it just looks like poured concrete, and it's smooth. It's got porch, then 2 steps down to the ground, and she fell somewhere between the top and the last step and the top, and ended up hitting the steps. Hey, Kay, good morning. Welcome in. And knocked the breath out, knocked the wind out of her. She got to experience that. And
she'd never done that before.
I don't know if she had or not. I don't know if I ever asked her or if she ever realized it, but yeah, it knocked the wind out of her. And I'm a little bit concerned about where where her ribs attach in the back, that they might have pulled loose a little bit. I didn't feel anything broke, but boy, it's sure tender back there. She thinks she hit. Of course, nobody witnessed this unless it was the neighbors. And it is, Carol. It's out to get us. That's no joke. I took a couple of tumbles. Well, the tractor tumble was the worst of all. But I was I'm a little bit concerned still a little bit. She said I'm pretty sore, and she said I'm stoked up. What she means is stoved up, as we say around here, STOVED.
Need to go get Chi to come and do some like. You need to get. You need to have some
medicine
talking to your property thing.
Yeah, I do. I need to check into that.
You need to get some harmony, buddy.
Hojo.
Okay,
I have a question. This is not a test. This is an opinion poll. Oh, you know what? I should have done it.
It's an opinion poll.
Well, I've been using the same font on my things, and I've used a couple that didn't show up well. And I picked this one out, started to use it, and decided not to go to the trouble of putting it in. I was having a real struggle this week getting some things done mentally, I think. And falling down stuff and all that crap didn't help. And so I chose a new font for this, and it shows up better. I don't know if you guys can read it any better. Normally I use this.
We don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it. Am I not?
All we see is us.
Well, dang it.
It's not presenting.
I didn't present. No, I didn't. So
I like that font.
Well, that's the one I normally use.
Yeah, but I can read that real well.
This is the one I started to put in this slideshow.
I like that too. I didn't like the last one you used.
No, it was too fine and too squirrely.
Too wispy.
Yeah, it didn't work. And I regretted it after I did it, but it was too late to change it. Because it takes a little while to go through and change all that. And but I was thinking about going to this one for a little while. It's a little bit boxier. It might be easier to read. I don't know. You guys have an opinion, just feel free to let me know. But so I put down here, if we're going to keep hunting squirrels, we might as well eat a few. So I searched the internet yesterday, last night, and this morning, and found some recommended recipes. So we're going to get a few now, and we have our own home recipes. I'm sure everybody here has their own squirrel home recipe, surely. And I'd love to share them if you want to send them.
That's like, I got to pause you a minute. That's like our oldest daughter, when she went to Delta State, which is in Mississippi, they still believe in ladies' deportment classes and things at the university. So she literally had to take a class in deportment.
Yeah.
I just envisioned her walking around in the room with a book on her head, like learning how to walk properly and stuff. But one of the things they were required to do was to bring in their mama's biscuit recipe.
Oh.
And Shauna's biscuit recipe involves a womp on the counter.
Well, I'm ashamed to say, not ashamed, but my mom progressed into a stage where that's about all she fixed for my dad. Now, if I was there, she changed, but
Shauna calls them wampum biscuits.
Well, that's what they are, wampum. That's what Jerry Clower called them.
You wamp them on the counter. That is what Jerry Clower called them, but Shauna calls them that independently.
We called them that at our house growing up too. When Mom would fix them, once we'd heard Jerry Clower,
And I make biscuits out of regular flour and out of sourdough, and
you make good biscuits.
And they're cat heads. You roll it into a tube, kind of, and you choke.
Carol says she knows that recipe too.
And you choke that biscuit off the end like a cat head,
and then lay it on there. And I don't know. Mom would cut.
And Tina says she calls them wampums too.
Well, there you go. That's what they should have named them. Or whack them or something, because you definitely got to whomp them or whack them on the counter. At least that's an easy way to open them up.
Well, here in Wyoming, I see more like when you take the little ring off, I see more like failures. They blow up in your hand before you even get to whomp them. Okay. I don't know if it has to do with the altitude or what.
I bet it is. I bet that's an altitude thing. And then they started making, when we've eaten a lot of frozen biscuits in my house, because Brenda and I both used to make biscuits, and we got to a point where it seemed like neither one of us could make them or make them good anymore. I've made a couple of sets that I thought I should have put in the World's Fair because they were just that good, and then I hadn't hit another lick. I wouldn't hit another lick for 2 years, or that was any count. But anyway, we're not doing biscuits. That's interesting, though, that you say that. I bet a lot of people go there now and wouldn't have a biscuit recipe.
So that's weird. We're talking about squirrels, and the squirrel that we talked about was biscuits.
Yeah, well, we got off on deportment. So anyway, that's what we're going to do today. And I thought I'd throw out there right off the bat, we'd have some chicken fried squirrel or rabbit. Oh, he's gone. He'll know where this came from. That's why I was saying that. I hope my links at the bottom of the page works, because I'm serious. If anybody wanted the recipe, I want to make sure you guys got the links and to give credit to who, where these came from. This recipe came from Stephen Ranella. I think that's how you pronounce it, but they do videos and shows and podcasts on the Meat Eater Network, and they do a lot. Mark had turned me on to them kind of not too long ago. They were doing a lot of squirrel hunting, and showing in fact, they were using squirrel dogs, and I almost want to say somebody had a squirrel mule, but I'm not. Maybe that's just something banging around in my head. So I don't want to get too far away from here. I use Bisquick most of the time. A few scoops of that and some milk, easy as wampums, and they don't crack the counter. Well, that's true, Tina. And we've done that also. I made some really good sourdough biscuits once upon a time, but I hadn't messed with that. And your Mark does that. He makes like instant sourdough starter and makes biscuits. Don't you make that sourdough starter like day of the event, or you have to let it set a day or two?
No, I usually make it in the morning, and by biscuit time in the evening, it's bubbling away and good to go.
One of the funniest things I've ever heard.
That's what Kent Rollins makes that quick.
Yeah, I think
he uses so much sourdough when he's cooking for cowboys that he's just found that it's just easier. And to me, it tastes just like the stuff that you feed and feed and feed. And once you make it, you can keep it for a long time. But
yeah. Some people say 100 years, which I don't.
Well, but I mean, even this quick stuff.
Oh, it'll last a little while.
I've kept it I might feed it and might keep it for a month. I haven't made it in a long time, but
Tina is now admitting that she had barbecued squirrel. Friend grew up in West Virginia, and he said, "Try this. If you ever seen me, you'd see that I never use my teeth." Well, you did mention that earlier when we were talking about donut. Carol says she's eaten crow a couple of times. That's different, Carol. I think that's we don't use that. We honor our squirrels more than that.
My grandpa, who would pretty much eat my mom's dad, who was born in the 1800s, he would eat pretty much anything, at least try it.
At least try
And
it.
I'm sure he ate crow.
You
For
think
real.
so? Somebody I know talked about it one time and did not like it, but I don't know that that's a fact.
And at our wild game feeds, we always have some kind of mystery.
Oh yeah, well,
mystery stew or something that like people don't know what the heck it is. I've fed mountain lion people several times, and bobcat too.
That's pretty good eating though. Usually,
and it's real. Both of them are really good.
Everybody, I've not had it, so I can't.
If you've ever eaten a pork chop. Like a lean pork chop, not one of the real good ones with all the fat around
the edge, yeah.
But just a trimmed lean pork chop, you've eaten basically what mountain lion bobcat tastes like. Same color, it cooks the same color. You'd never know the difference.
What Mark was referring to was what here we called, well, they still do at the university. The Wildlife Society does this every year. They have a wild game feed, and all the students that are members usually bring a covered dish of some wild game that they have harvested somewhere during the year. And you don't always know for sure what it is, although they had to kind of put a tight rein on that down here because they started getting some things they weren't sure people should be eating. like skunk and a few things like that, and so they got a little bit more. But people bring in all kinds of stuff. I mean, you'd see somebody bring in a buffalo, some buffalo that they'd gotten from somebody, or a lot of elk and a lot of mule deer and some antelope, things they go out west and get, and of course lots of white-tailed deer and possum, groundhog maybe. And and you come in and you pay if you're not a member, or you pay a fee, and the whole thing's to help raise money for the society, for the what they call them, Mark, the chapter or whatever it is at the schools. And but that might be another good topic for another day.
But I got to address Kay's comment. She doesn't think she could eat any form of cat and keep it down. And I made a dish one time that I call so a mountain lion's scientific name is Puma concolor. Now it used to be Felis concolor, but now it's Puma concolor.
Yeah. And
I made a great big crock pot of chili, green chili. And use lion meat, look just like pork in there. And I called the dish chili con color. and all the biologists in the room were like, that's a good one, I'm like, don't tell anybody, just keep the joke to yourself. And all of our office manager gals at the building at that time ate so much of that I didn't get any. Like I didn't even get a bowl of it. Everybody
ate it all.
They ate all of it, like cleaned up, like literally, like scraped the inside of the crock pot.
Took a biscuit and run it all around in there and got all the good stuff out.
And man, they're like, golly, that's good. What is that? What is that? And I'm like, it's chili con color. That's what it is.
Did you ever tell them?
I never told them.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody cooked snakes, Brenda. I don't know about out there, but we've cooked snakes, and you may not have done it. Brenda may not have, but I've cooked snakes at our house, rattlesnake, a couple of times. Mark and I know you've eaten rattlesnake.
Well, we ate rattlesnake
maybe at my house.
We ate rattlesnake on that adventure to New Mexico.
Yes. That's the snakes
with both the families. We had all the girls were eating rattlesnake.
and they all every one of those snakes was full of eggs.
Yep.
That hadn't developed into little wigglers yet, and which now I know why, because rattlesnakes, copperheads do it back here. They gather and grab in maternity areas. That's another word for it. Oh, anyway, I won't think of it right now. But I know a guy that did a study here in Tennessee years ago on the plateau area, it's the Middle Tennessee, where they kind of discovered that copperheads do that here, and other things about copperheads that were really cool, and how they hunt and stuff. And anyway, so yeah, snakes would be on the table. I mean, just about every, and fish, usually lots of fish. In fact, we had a professor who usually showed up for this, and he had his own wild game feed for his class. He was our ichthyologist. Am I saying that right? Is that a fish doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah, he brought fish in he fished all over the world when he wasn't at work, at school. And he was a great guy. He was tough, but he was a really good guy. And he would show up, and other guys would show up, and they'd set up, fish cooking vats. And there'd always be 2 or 3 people sitting out behind the gym where we would have our meals, the auditorium. And they'd be out there cooking fresh fish, usually catfish, and then various kinds of panfish. And most of it was just fried up. But I mean, you were cooking it there on the spot. They weren't getting too gourmet about it, but it was good eating. I don't know what the best thing I ever ate there was. I'd have to think about that a minute. Usually, unfortunately, I didn't have a lot to bring in that regard, so we'd usually take vegetables or something to go along with the other dishes. My mom, Brenda says, my mom used to make squirrel dumplings, which is a very strange thing coming from a lady that came from California. She had to learn a lot about Southern cooking. Yes, she did. She was in for a big awakening when she came from California. Hit East Tennessee.
So this is Steve Rinella's recipe?
Yeah, this is one of Steve Rinella. That's why I was waiting on you to come back. This is one of his recipes from the Meat Eater website, which I've got down at the bottom. I told everybody, I'm linking all the recipes because I'm sure somebody here is going to want to go home and pick some squirrel. And this one can be used on rabbit. So most of you can go to the grocery store and buy a rabbit. And so it could be fixed. Of course, it's not the same rabbit. It's domestic rabbits. But anyway, I put the whole recipe in here for this one. And it said the biggest risk with chicken frying small game is the meat will get too chewy. And that is very true. It's easy to overcook. So he's recommending that you soak it and tenderize it a bit before you fix it. And this is his whole recipe. And I put the whole thing in here on this one just because, but I'm not going to bore you guys to death by reading every word of this. But I do have some pictures. And so, this is another one. This is from the National Wildlife Federation. I got this off their webpage.
That looks good. Squirrel pot pie.
And that's a squirrel pot pie. And, I can see this. And I go through this, but I had a lot of good pictures for this one. So I put them in here. So she tells the whole thing about how to go the process. Skin and clean the squirrel. Can you identify them squirrels as our mark?
I can identify them as squirrels.
Yeah. I bet they're great. Oh, I don't know. They look a little chunky.
I've eaten hundreds and hundreds of them. I'll guarantee you I can identify it as a squirrel.
What she's doing for this is she's pan frying them up a little bit, and then she pressure cooks them until the meat just falls off the bone. So she debones the whole thing, which is kind of good because squirrels got a lot of little bones in them. But if you're going to make a pot pie or something with them, it's better not to be chomping down on bones, although I certainly have.
This is kind of what I did with the muskrats.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I didn't use a pressure cooker, but I used
Brenda said
I crock potted it. I browned the meat in the skillet first, but I disassembled the animal.
Yeah.
Because God gave you dotted lines to where you could cut them apart. And
If you know where to look.
I disassembled them, and then I browned them, and then crock potted them all day, and they just fell apart.
Well, this lady, she seared the outside of them basically, or cooked them a little bit, and then she finished them off in a pressure cooker, which is actually probably one of the ways I would do it, especially these days, like with an Instant Pot, you can do this pretty quick. And well, I mean, that Instant Pot's just old-fashioned pressure. Like my mom used a pressure cooker about every day. Some people were scared to death of them. Mom used hers like just all the time. I mean, literally, she cooked in that thing at least twice a week, probably 3 times a week. And usually that was something big that we'd eat for a couple of nights. So it lasted a while, like a pot of beans. And her pinto beans cooked in a pressure cooker, I swear to God, I believe are still the best I've ever had. But anyway,
I wouldn't have known I was at my grandmother's house.
Eating her best of the beans.
If that thing wasn't constantly going.
Mom cooked in hers all the time.
I mean that rocker on the top of a was always, you know.
I'd wake up to that on a Sunday morning because Mom would cook dinner and then have it ready to come home and eat after church when they'd come home. And that thing would be rattling at 7 a.m. because she was already fixing something in there. But anyway, this lady cooked hers till it came off the bone, and there you can see did I need to get permission slips on this, Carol? I didn't even think about it.
Can you see that?
I can see it, but I can't tell what it is.
Well, that's the muskrat pies.
Is that the muskrat pies?
That's when they were done.
Oh, okay. Did you put a crust on top?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I put 1 slit to let out the steam and 2 more because that's the way your mom did it.
That's right. That's right. You told me that. Carol said
Nightlanger. Mr. Nightlanger.
Eat my chocolate bunny. I always give it away because I can't bring me to bite its head. Oh, you gotta do it in little bites, Carol. Then it don't look like a rabbit. Bite the ears, nibble the ears off, chew off the tail and the feet, and pretty soon it's just a chunk of chocolate. Oh, can I make you big? Hang on, Mark. Hold that up again. Let me see if I can't make you big.
Oh, heck, I've got to have to hunt it again now.
Oh, well, if you find it.
No, it's right here. Wow.
All right, let me see if I can do this.
I don't know if you can make that big or not.
Well, that ain't right.
You made you big.
I'm big enough. No, I'll have to do it after I stop presenting. Remind me, just leave the picture up, and we get through presenting. I'll do it. I can do it then. Right now, it won't let me because I got this up in the background.
Yes, I had potatoes and mixed vegetables and a little onion and muskrat meat.
Dave, I'll tell you what, you are the busiest guy out here. You're always working when you're here. So anyway, she shredded all the meat, and then she made a roux. And who was it used to say? As Emerald Lagasse used to say, or somebody used to ask. Yes, mothers always ask their sons about their bride to be, something to the effect of, "Yes, son, she can cook, but can she make a roux?" Because if you're from Louisiana, apparently everything starts with a roux. Anyway,
that's what I've been told.
She's, sauteing onions or softening them up, and then she's making a roux with that in it and whatever else. It tells stuff in here. And so basically she's making the basis for her gravy, what's going to be all around her squirrel in her pot pie. And she's going to make the crust for the pot pie, which is an art unto itself. And you make pie crust, don't you, Mark? That's something else.
No, I never have. I just buy them.
Somebody I know is like a pro pie crust maker, and I can't remember who it is. Then
I think I could make pie crust, but I don't.
Yeah,
I never have. I just Shauna buys those kind of pre-flattened, rounded
Brenda does too. That's what we usually get. But
and they're good.
Hers homemade a lot. She, as she would say, she cheated once in a while and got a store-bought crust, but she made homemade pie crust a fair bit. One of her favorite things, one of my dad's favorite things, was on his birthday. Mom would make him, instead of making a cake for him or anything for his birthday, my mom baked constantly.
She made a pie, didn't she?
She would make homemade butterscotch pies, and she'd usually make 2 of them. And meringue topping and homemade butterscotch, and then homemade crust. Usually, sometimes she used cookable butterscotch pudding, but sometimes she made it from scratch, and man, was it good! I have been known to make homemade butterscotch pies myself. It turned out really good. Anyway, back to the squirrel. So she's making the dough, rolls it out, puts it in the dish, and then there. Oh, look, Mark, she has 5 slits in her.
I see it. Looks like a starfish.
Her mama must put 4, 1 to let out the steam, and 4 because her mama did. Maybe she's got 1 for each children or something. So anyway, and then this is the mixture that she put in there. She's got the squirrel and the roux and all kinds of mixed veggies.
Lots of mixed veggies.
Looks just like a pot pie you buy in the store. And you make it, and that's the same picture we had at the beginning, because she only had 1 of that. So she said, once it's done, let it cool. She spelled that wrong. She spelled don't. Let it cool a little and enjoy. I like to save the squirrel carcasses and use them to make stock. Oh, that's cool. Hey, that's interesting. 2 squirrels don't yield a lot of stock, so I put them in with whatever else I'm making stock out of. Tails can be used for tying flies, and of course, you can eat the offal or offal as well, which is the innards. And I know there's some people that do that. Some people feed innards to critters now like this to their dogs and cats, because they've found that some of the vitamins and things that are actually in organ meat is good for them. I've read a couple of things about that and watched somebody on TV talk about it. So, some people do that. Everybody doesn't.
Just don't give them any intestine or anything like that.
No. Just like livers and hearts, and
kidneys and livers and hearts.
Yeah. I've eaten heart meat, but it's usually bigger hearts. I've eaten some raw heart at one time. That was a deer camp up on the creek. You and I did that.
Yep.
So anyway, and then this is I don't know, I spelled that wrong. These are supposed to be squirrel carnita, I think, which is, if I remember correctly, that's a Mexican seasoned version. What do they usually make that? Maybe that's a pork dish. And then we got Kentucky Fried Squirrel. And these are all recipes, but I just brought pictures in. I figured if I talked about it this long, would you guys be about over it? Chicken cacciatore.
Or squirrel.
Squirrel cacciatore, excuse me. Chicken just comes out of my head. I probably learned that on Bugs Bunny. Now, I thought this was cool. This is a clipping from the 1887 White House cookbook, and it is for squirrel dumplings, or squirrel soup, actually. Which is, you can do the same thing, just add dumplings. But so it's got Irish potatoes, tomatoes, lima beans.
They just ruined a good squirrel by putting lima beans with it.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I could do without that too. But that's what whoever, and if I'm not mistaken, White House cookbooks tend to be personalized with each president, I think, or ever so often. So I don't know who was in office in 1887. I didn't look that up, but they might have brought this recipe with him.
That they are personalized. Every one of them had a different deal.
That's what I was thinking. So anyway, and then this is another version of squirrel. It's squirrel dumplings. Excuse me. somebody's version of squirrel dumplings, and I put that recipe. If you can click on the link, somebody test my link for me and let me know. But that should take you to the recipe for squirrel dumplings.
That's just not. You don't need green stuff in squirrel dumplings.
No, you don't. I agree. I grew
You
up not eating a lot of green stuff
you
anyway.
you can have that on the side if you wish, but you don't put it in the dish.
Well, Brenda could tell you that one of my favorite nighttime snacks is a can of peas, as me and the girls used to call it. I can get a can of peas off the shelf, warm them up 2 minutes in the microwave, and just eat them up. I just always kind of like peas, but that's not for everybody. It's another version, somebody else's recipe, and a different look on squirrel dumplings. On this first one, you really don't see, well, you do see some of the meat and it's shredded. And that's kind of how we used to do our chicken. Kind of how I was used to doing chicken dumplings. This was just another way, bigger chunks of squirrel meat. And I got a couple more click on recipes that people can do, like Grandma. This was an article from Mississippi Sportsman. It was titled Grandma's Greatest Gift, Squirrel Dishes. Apparently, his grandma could cook squirrel meat in many different ways. And that's listed if you click on that. From Mossy Oak, which started out making, I don't know what as far as I know, they started out making camouflage. A certain pattern of camouflage. And now they do
everything.
Africa. In Africa?
I wore it to Africa.
Oh, you wore it to Africa. Well, they started out just as that. We started finding, Mossy Oak camo showed up on the market probably when you and I were still
about the time that tree bark died.
Yeah,
it came on the scene, and it looks an awful lot like Jim Crumley's camo now.
Yeah. Well, let's face it, you can only do it so many different ways.
Right.
Till it starts looking a lot. Mossy Oak, but what I was getting at is Mossy Oak has everything now. I mean, you can buy a 4-wheeler that's labeled as a Mossy Oak because of the color and how they decorate it. But I mean, Mossy Oak's got their name on a lot of stuff now. And then
like a bull named Mudslinger.
Huh?
Like a bucking bull named Mudslinger.
Mossy Oak Mudslinger?
Yep.
Yeah, I have seen their name on there.
I think he's gone over to the other side by now. But anyway, they're big into promoting stuff.
No, you can't click on the links on the slides. Dang it. Now they work fine for me. Oh, yeah, see, that one worked for me. It opened up here. Well, sorry, guys. If that breaks anybody's heart, let me know, and I can send you the recipes. I don't know, but for some reason, I just am thinking none of you guys are going to ask for a recipe. But there's always hope. I put this picture in at the bottom because this the last recipe there on that page, the one that was in the Real Tree catalog. And again, they've got lots of stuff besides camo nowadays. Is one way to cut dumplings, and some people do it this way. We always made our dumplings just by wadding up dough and dropping it in the pan, kind of like a cat head biscuit, but in gravy, if you will. But I know a lot of people cut them up. First time I ever saw anything that looked like this was I went to what used to be known as a Po' Boys restaurant in Nashville, and they had chicken and dumplings, and somebody brought a bowl of this out, and I said, that ain't chicken and dumplings. What is that in there? I said, them ain't dumplings.
That's dumplings shouldn't be squares.
No, dumplings are round and lumpy.
They're just like random
shapes.
Shaped.
But anyway, this is one way some people do it. I don't know what part
I make a recipe of my German grandmother, whose original name was, her last name was von Dressler, and it became Trace. So somewhere in the early 1900s, it became Trace. And she was as hill people as you could get, but she like most of those, she wasn't from Germany, but her grandmother was. But all those German women made Spetzel noodles, which I love, and the hill people had added tomato juice to them over the years. So you cook them in tomato juice, basically. Oh my! And they're just like a dumpling. I mean, Grandma would roll that dough out on the table in flour, and then cut noodles. But you can just tear it off of there. Some of the Germans just tear it off and make it's almost like a dumpling that's made out of noodle dough. And my goodness, are they good!
I'm going to have to try that sometime.
I can't. I got a really good recipe for it if you want it, but
yeah, I'd like to have it sometime.
I can't.
Okay, Carol, I have a question, or whoever. Sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to step.
No,
on
go ahead.
She's bringing up the fact that the links don't work, probably because they don't have the actual slideshow. But sometimes I put them in here and they work, don't they? Or is that just when I cut and paste them in the?
No. I've never had one that I could click on.
Well, I'm sorry, guys.
If you put them over in the
in a comment
chat,
box, yeah, that works.
We can click on those typically.
Yeah, I can't do that either right here. Okay, I know you guys. Nobody's running out to get squirrel today or anything, so I know if anybody was to want a squirrel recipe, please let me know.
Well, Tina's probably got them in the yard right now.
Well, I'm sure she does. The dogs run them up the tree every day. Carol says she loves Spatzel too. We have a place called German Park here where you can get them. Oh, cool. They only work. Oh, yeah, paste them into the chat. Okay, well, I'll remember that. I'll quit going to all that trouble. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Mark, they have on their website, they have dumplings recipe, and this is their version. Somehow that looks like it come from Yankee food.
Ohio. They've got
but the noodles the dumplings look right. They're the right shape and size.
Yeah, that's a real dumpling, but that you shouldn't have all that other stuff in there.
And really the broth shouldn't be that clear. To me, it should look
it should look like that right there that you're over.
This here are dumplings.
So if you go to Kentucky's website, they've got the best cooking kind of information on their website that I've ever seen.
I don't know if I did. Do they have burgoo?
If I was going to stay with the department here, if I'd kept going for a few more years, I was going to try to get Wyoming to do something similar.
Yeah.
But they have like video cookbooks.
Yeah.
And they teach you how to make burgoo. They teach you how to make actual squirrel and dumplings, fried rabbit, fishes of various species. They're good. It's a good one.
And burgoo, for anybody who might not know, and there maybe nobody does, burgoo is sort of a special dish that Kentucky
invented in Kentucky.
Yeah, it's a Kentucky thing. And in fact, the only place I've ever heard of it was in Kentucky. There may be other places, but I've never had it, but it's more or less like a squirrel stew, is it not?
No, so we ate it at Land Between the Lakes all the time.
Oh, okay.
We had a little restaurant just east of LBL that we would go to that sold burgoo in a great big giant styrofoam cup.
Yeah.
And it's like a soup. It's tomato based, so it's got tomato juice and it's got corn. It always has tomato juice and corn and some kind of a hot zippy sauce. They probably use Frank's or something like that now, but they always had it. It was always kind of spicy. And then the meat of your choice, it had to be wild or it didn't count. So they would use squirrel meat and rabbit and deer meat, whatever.
So you could ask them for which one you wanted?
No, what they'd make a big ginormous, they had a big old like headhunter looking cauldron.
Yeah.
And they would
Headhunter.
a great big cauldron. And then they'd have anyway, they'd cook that. They might have 7 kinds of meat in there.
Oh, okay.
You never knew. And then they'd just ladle you a big old giant bowl out of there and or cup. And then there were contests all over that part of Kentucky, kind of south central Kentucky.
For burgoo recipes.
But burgoo's all over the state. You can get it in eastern Kentucky. You can get it out on the west.
I think it varies some too. It's not all the same.
No, but it's always got those elements that I mentioned.
It has to have that in it to be a burgoo.
Some people put probably a big old green bell pepper in there or something like that. I never saw it with like a big onion or anything.
That surprises me a little.
But it was pretty zingy. I mean, it was spicy. So
interesting.
You had to go into it with that in mind. And it was a thin soup. It wasn't like a stew, really.
Okay.
But it'd have whole kernel corn in it. Yeah, I loved it.
How do you spell
I don't think it would love me now, but I loved it then. My supervisor here in Wyoming, he started making it. He was like, "Don't you come from that part of the world where they make that burgoo stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you want some recipes?" So he started building it out here. Did I lose you?
Get this. This is interesting. I looked at burgoo on Wikipedia, and for burgoo as a type of food, they have one place that there was apparently the British Royal Navy had a version of it that probably didn't have anything to do with what we're talking about. But burgoo is and they're saying it's a stew similar to Irish or Mulligan stew, often served with cornbread or corn muffins. That's probably true. Not always. That's probably not them have to, but. And then they give the etymology and the history of it and the preparation of it and the regional popularity. I've never seen it anywhere outside of Kentucky that I know of.
If it ain't made in Kentucky, it ain't real burgoo. Sorry.
No, that's probably true. It's like
I don't care if the Brits have something they call burgoo.
Well, that's why I was saying that's probably something that ain't got nothing to do with anything.
It was something that was invented in the hills, and
yeah, it came from Kentucky. Okay, and that's the end. And Mark, who knows what the joke here is? Anybody? Mark?
The joke?
Yeah, I've got a little, pardon the pun, a hook to this ending.
I don't
know this.
I don't.
Nobody else would, but you will when I tell you. Squirrel's tail.
I see squirrel tail right there.
That's the end, and I got a squirrel tail on a Mepps fly.
I got it.
And it says right there, hand-tied squirrel tail. The company that makes Mepps fishing lures to this day does still buy squirrel tails to make flies with. I saw an ad just the other day for that. I didn't know.
I used to get 10 cents each.
10 cents a tail?
10 cents a tail for gray squirrel tails. I don't know. We didn't have fox squirrels really where you and I grew up.
I guess they'd buy them too, though, surely.
I would think so.
Okay, there was something else now I was going to show after. Oh, I was going to mark. If you've got your picture, you see
Oh,
if I can't make you great big.
let me
Okay,
see if I can get to it.
I got to swap us around here somehow. How do I do that? There. Now maybe I can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
Turn it just a little bit. The glare that right
well,
there. You can see it better right there. You can see your 3 slots.
yeah,
Interesting. You don't put them in a circle like a radius. You put them
they
a
look like
radial.
they look like a turkey track or a dinosaur
So I was
track.
getting ready to say they look like a bird foot, and of course they would. I don't know why he masked.
They were good. They were good. I mean, the pies came out wonderful. The meat, the muskrat meat. I've eaten muskrat a lot, and these but I'd never eaten them from here at home, and had all the grandsons and great nephews out trapping muskrats during over Christmas, and I said every one of them we catch we're eating.
Tell them why you were. Tell them why that project got started.
Well, it got started because my son's wife wants a blanket. That's why it got
Yeah,
started.
muskrat skin blanket, fur blanket.
120 muskrats, probably. I think we ended up catching a dozen.
Man, it might take you a couple years.
Because we didn't trap that. I mean, we only trapped a few days, but
Yeah,
the
I was gonna
kids.
say, well, you were doing it with the kids. It's kind of hard to get real serious.
Yeah, and we got 4 and 5 year olds out there wandering on the creek bank with the ice and snow, and anyway, we caught a handful of rats and musquatch.
Did he try? Did he
As
take
as the as the as the Cree Indians would call them, musquatch.
musquat?
That's where the word muskrat actually came from.
I believe that.
And
Somebody, any of you guys live in the part of the northeast or the northern eastern part of the country where muskrat's a popular item on the menu? I know there's a few of the New England states that my understanding is it's still on the menu and it's really popular.
well, John lives in a state that certainly would
He may not. I don't know if
serve
he's
them.
living here or not.
Probably Tina too. They serve it at fancy restaurants as marsh rabbit, they call
Yeah,
it, and it's a muskrat. And
John says we have a lot. So
yeah, they're good. But the ones that we have them here, I'm not sure what they're feeding on, but they were. I'd never had one like this before. They were real fishy, and I know they're not eating fish,
yeah, that's interesting.
they may be eating crayfish.
Maybe.
We don't have a lot. We don't have any mussels or any kind of clams or anything in the water here, like the waters we grew up on. You'd see a muskrat sitting on a rock out in the river eating shellfish or eating some kind of mussel, freshwater mussels.
Yeah, I
But
forgot about that. Mostly, I mean, they eat a lot of vegetables.
mostly they eat plants, and
Yeah.
in our banks, we have so many right now. I mean, they just exploded, and they're digging our banks out really bad. They get in there and dig on the face of that bank and get roots.
Yeah, my granddad used to try to keep trapped out or shot out of his pond because they were bad to eat through his. He had a pond with a.
And I don't begrudge them that. They just
No.
that's a fact. We have lots
what they do.
lots of. And but we had a family of river otters move in this winter, and they're still kind of hanging about. And I don't know if I know they ate at least 2 muskrats because they took them out of our traps.
Interesting.
We caught them in conibears, and you're like, we can't find our trap, and we find it drug up on the bank with a bunch of otter tracks around it, and a little bit of muskrat hair on the trap jaw, and that's it.
Were they able to pull them out of the jaws of a
I
conibear?
think they just ate them out of there.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking.
Drug the trap around till they got the carcass clear out of there, and it probably ate, one end and ate the other end then. But
yeah, boy, isn't that appetizing, folks? You heard it here first. Yeah, I wish I wasn't too old for the mountains, buddy. I'd come out there and help you trap something.
It was so cool to see those otters, though. They're so cool to.
Yeah,
I mean the river never froze up hard like it normally does this year. We had little holes here and there, and every one of those there'd be otter slides, and they'd get out on the snow, and you could see where they were playing with each other. There was 4 of them, and they'd be pronking along, and then somebody'd lay down on his belly and just slide maybe 20 yards. And I don't know if they're paddling when they're doing that or if they just go.
But get enough momentum going. John, that basically what maybe instead of protected, I mean, they are kind of protected. They're managed. And that's how that's a wildlife management agencies control populations. And
yeah, I mean, sure you got to get a trapping license to trap.
Yeah, you do here too.
Every state. If it's a fur bear, you have to have a trapping license. But
they usually they're under. Mark just said it, but usually they're under the part of the regulations that covers fur bears, not the part that covers rabbits and squirrels and big game. And then big game. Fur bears have their own. They have their own special thing.
And so in Wyoming, even if you just take your 22 out there and shoot them,
you still got to have a
permit. You have to have a trapping license.
Yeah. Well, okay, trapping license. Probably do here, and I never thought about that, but I guess you would here too, because you have to have a permit that covers that. I mean, I don't think Tennessee has a separate trapping license.
Well, used to.
Did they?
Yeah,
we still might. I was thinking it was under.
Always had to buy her trapping license.
Well, maybe I'm thinking because when they went to sportsman's license and things like that covered more with one license, but maybe that's what I'm thinking. They went to that, and then that covered your hunting and fishing and certain other things. And I think that covered fur bears, so maybe that's what I had in my mind that it was all together.
Well, our sportsman's license here covers all of us that hunt, fish, or trap in Wyoming have to have a conservation stamp, which is I don't even know what they cost now. I've got a permanent one, so I don't know what they were 10 or 12 or $15 for a stamp. And all that money goes to habitat work. And then you had to have on the sportsman's license, it covered the conservation stamp, fishing, and small and upland game. So I have a lifetime version of that license, so I'm covered. The only thing I have to buy are big game tags. So
I wish I'd gotten a permanent license when they first started doing that in Tennessee, because you could get them. They ran specials on them, if you will.
They used to be cheap.
Yeah, but they're not anymore. I mean,
well, and if you're, and you got to kind of look at your life expectancy, if you will, and like, okay, I probably only got however many years left, and it wouldn't be worth it for me to get a permanent license.
That's right, Carol. That's a good neighbor. So that's the one you don't want to make mad. You want to keep on good terms. But I bet you what I know about John, I bet John takes him clams too. Just be my guess.
And fishing.
Because usually you got people
that takes him some golf eggs every now and again.
Yeah, probably. Because usually when you got neighbors that are swapping out clams, they're probably swapping out other things too. I bet you.
That yeah, I use all my wares I build during the summertime, jellies and jams and whatever. Like I'll trade you some, wild currant preserves for something that they have.
Brenda and I have been talking about this, and I think we would both like to get back into that frame of mind. I mean, we could easily do blackberries and
You got them at the house there,
not here right in our yard because it's mowed out. I mean, it's
right?
not
But around the edge.
but, oh yeah, and probably. I mean, I'm sure we could drive up and down the road here and find plenty. TVA property, when I was working there, we had dirt roads in some tracks,
Yeah.
and they would just be covered with blackberry bushes or vines.
Oh man, I miss them.
And man, they just some years they would just be thick with these big old long blackberries, the good sweet kind. And oh man, I do too. I've never been that crazy about blackberry seeds, but I do like blackberry.
Me Smalls.
You're killing me, Smalls.
They so when I don't know if I told you or not, I made Mom a big old. I bought $100 worth of ribeyes and made Mom a big steak dinner for Mother's Day.
No, you didn't.
When we were back there, and Dad had an old gas grill out in the backyard that was falling apart, hadn't been used in who knows how long, 20 years, and was just kind of falling apart, and certainly you couldn't hook it up to gas anymore. Parts were missing, and so I converted it to a wood fire grill. And I built me a little hickory fire in the bottom of it.
Oh, nice.
And then I paid my niece to go up on the hill in the woods, or my great niece to go up on the hill in the woods and harvest me a bag of shagbark bark, the stuff from the bottom of the tree.
Yeah, to smoke with.
And I figured she'd bring me 3 or 4 pieces, and she brought me literally a whole garbage sack full. And I'd offered her a crisp $5 bill. She's only 8. And I gave her a crisp 10 instead because she brought me so much bark. And I made a real nice bed of coals. And I was just around the grill behind Mom's back porch. That's the only place I was at. And I got 29 ticks on me.
Oh, Lord. I hadn't thought about that yet. I hadn't thought about ticks.
And my little niece that climbed halfway up the hill, she didn't get any ticks on her.
Okay. It won't come from here, but we'll have Brenda and I'll have to get out one day when we're out riding around and find. We got people. There's all kinds of places that sell their family version of blackberry jam and stuff, all kinds of jams and jellies. And one of my favorite lines from the movie National Treasure is, and you know what they do in the preservation room at the wherever they keep the Constitution, and the guy that's with him, not the tall guy, Nick
Ridley, with a little short.
The little guy, he says, "What prepared wonderful jams and jellies." You know what they do in the preservation room? Well, prepared jams and jellies. No. I just always thought that was funny. Anyway, I'll have to send you some. I won't promise it's good or bad. You can tell us. We'll let you try a couple from up here because there's lots of blackberry jams and jellies up here that you see around all over the place, and usually they're home recipes. You find them at flea markets and things like that.
They'll be good. They'll probably have like a cloth over the top of the jar.
Might very well have a cloth over the top of the jar. That's right. Or a sheet of wax or a little a layer of wax on top. That's how sometimes some things were done that way. And I don't know when that changed, or if some jams and jellies do better that way. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what
They
you're talking
pour a
about.
little, like a little cap of wax on top of it to seal it off. And
I always remember going and buying wild blackberry or raspberry jellies, and they'd always have like a little checkered. It was always like a little red and white checkered tablecloth over the lid or over top of the jar mouth, and then they would put the ring and the seal lid on top of that, screw it down. It always just was pleasing to the eye.
and the palate usually.
Oh, very much so.
The
I can't say I'm a fan of the store bought kind.
no, I mean
You
most
can
store
occasionally find Welch's or something that'll have it, and it's like, no, that's not the good stuff.
I tell you, it's hard to, and I think jellies that came from the store used to be better than they are now. It's like for me, it's hard to find a decent strawberry jelly in the store anymore. At least what I call a decent strawberry jelly or a jam. The whole jelly jam thing's always kind of confused
Well,
me a
that's
little
because
bit.
they're picking them when they're half ripe and not
Yeah,
letting.
I'm sure that is. But there's a few around if you find them in stores that are not bad, that are halfway decent. But around it, like I said, around here, there's stores that have locally made stuff, that's pretty close.
Well, and I made the biggest dang mess last year. I was cooking currants
Yeah.
in the pressure cooker,
Oh.
and no, I just had them in a big pot. I think the berries, and I was cooking them down, and currants are kind of a pretty tart, not very sweet berry, so you got to add like a ton of sugar to it. And you better stay there with the pot, and you better stir it every second. And you think, well, maybe it's getting done. You turn your back, and this literally was like I turned to do something for like a minute, and
Boom.
it just bubbled up out of there and got all over my wife's stove.
Carol, I hope you can
And
figure
it took
that out.
forever to get that off.
I bet it did. Hope you get it figured out and sorted out, and it's not anything too serious. Hopefully, it's the engine light that came on, is not the oil light. Sometimes I knew I had a cousin one time that said he'd been driving with that oil light on for 6 months, but he didn't know exactly what it meant, and he burned the engine up. He bought a new car and just ruined it. I mean, he just plumb ruined it. Of course, he wasn't very mechanically inclined. That's all I'll say about that. But thanks for coming in, Carol, if you still hear us. And, see you next week, hopefully, or, if you're not out on vacation or something. Oh, me, I guess we're about ready to wind down anyway. I just stopped putting recipes on there because, I figured everybody'd want to try all the squirrel recipes, and I figured I didn't need too many.
Yeah, I mean, half a dozen was plenty.
Well, I mean, everybody's going to go out and fix them. They don't need to fix too many all at
We're
once.
probably out in the front yard with a 22 rifle right now.
That's probably why Tina's not been saying anything for a few minutes. She's probably out shooting squirrels in the yard. And that dog of hers is
Is it Danny? Danny out there
out
like
up the tree.
he's fetching them up.
It's a she, Danny.
Oh shit, she.
Yeah, she. I don't remember that she's got two. I don't think they're both blue ticks. One of them's a blue tick, I think. But anyway, I can't remember what the other one. I get them mixed up. But I looked out the window the other day and crossed over to the dog rescue guy or foster parent over there, him and his wife, and I looked out and there was just a puddle of puppies running across the yard. They've got 2 litters of pups right now that they're probably taking somewhere soon. And because they take them. They do the movement thing where they move them to different states where people are looking for dogs and whatnot. And they've got one of those litters had about 10 in it, and I think the other one must have had it close to that. So when they're running across the yard, it's just like a big wave of puppies. And I mean, they're so much fun to watch because if you really watch them, it's like looking at a kindergarten or a daycare where the kids are all out playing when they're outside. Because one of them comes up with something, and you can see one in the kind of awkward kid where he turns around and runs back to the. I mean, they just suddenly all turn and go to that one because he found something fun to do, and then they're off. One of them's over here digging in the corner. I mean, it's just they're so funny, and they'll probably be gone soon, and I'll be sad because I won't get to watch them. I thought about going over there and checking them out to see if I wanted one, but I hadn't done it. Brenda says I probably shouldn't do that right now, and she's sitting here texting me like crazy. Oh my!
Danny is a he. Danny is a he.
Danny is a he? I thought Danny was a she. He has a serious injury. Oh, no. Don't want to do it. Well, why the hell did I think it was a she?
Why is
the other one a female, Tina? So my wife just sent me this picture, and I'll see if I can get it on the screen. I don't know if I'll be able to or not. I might have to send it to my computer. Our daughter, the evil princess of the night, or the mysterious princess of the night, is doing a really big show this weekend. And crap.
That looked like out here.
Well, it was. Because that's what I've got on my screen.
It looked like Shiprock.
So let me get this focused if I can. Come on.
It's not focusing.
Yeah, maybe it's not sharp enough.
Has she got her butterflies and things there?
She's got it. She's doing a show this weekend at a place in Oak Ridge. Brenda, where is this one, Brenda? Yes, her name is Morgan. Okay, maybe that's why I got them mixed up. The female's Morgan. Anyway, I'm about to get mad at this. Anyway, she's doing a show. It probably ain't gonna focus. I'll have to. There it is. A little better. She's got a pretty big display set up. She's been
busy. Goodness.
She's been working, doing a lot of new things. She's been trying some stuff. She's actually had quite a few people, tell her that, they want stuff. She's taken some orders. Some of those may be on not consignment, but some of those may have been ordered already. She's working on something for me, or is going to start working on something for me. She's going to I had this idea when I was, for a long time now, Brenda and I talked, I meant to put some of my Boy Scout stuff, my Eagle rank stuff with my Eagle pins and badges in like a shadow box or something, put on the wall. Well, Kelly's taking that to do something with it. She's not going to put it with bones, I don't think. But she's probably going to put it with some feathers. So I said, well, we can get some fake eagle feathers if you want to do that. Because, I don't want her to get in trouble using anything that she's not supposed to be using. But I know you can buy those, fake eagle feathers that people use in headdresses and stuff. And,
they make some hand-painted ones that look just like the real deal.
Who do you know? Who's got that kind of stuff?
Crazy Crow.
Crazy Crow. Yeah, Crazy Crow
will sell you hand-painted or hand-stained eagle feathers.
Yeah, that's who I was trying to think of.
And I'm not sure what species of legal bird they're using to make them. They don't look like turkey feathers to me. They look more like the shape of that an eagle would be in.
Yeah.
Because they're tail feathers. And they look pretty good. I've had them in my hand. They look pretty good. They brought a bunch to us one time, and like, okay, which one's the real ones and which one's the fake ones? And this is something you wildlife guys are going to have to contend with,
right?
And I couldn't. And I've held thousands of real
You
ones.
can't tell them, then they're pretty damn good.
They were real good.
Oh wow, she said she got the number one spot right by the rabbit, the door, right by the door. I'm sure what she meant. Oh, well, that's cool because location is everything.
You don't
When
want to
you're
be
selling art.
back there in the corner.
Well, that's cool. Is that just today, Brenda? We ought to go down there and see it, but I don't know if we'd have time. I don't know how long it is, and it's probably just today. And I don't know if you're able to go out, and I don't know if you feel like doing anything like that yet. Because you fell off the porch and didn't have your phone. Guys, help me. Tell her she needs to have that phone with her, because either one of us falls on the far end of the house. This is like when I had my lawnmower wreck. I did have my phone in my pocket. Now, I didn't think I was going to be able to get it because I thought my arms were broke and my neck was broke and all that. But I did roll down the hill as I was escaping the bees, and I did figure out how to get it out of my pocket. And that's the only reason Brenda knew I was laying up here broke and under the lawnmower, so to speak.
Well, Brenda at least was scouting for bees. She didn't find anywhere she fell, right?
No, she's convinced now that it was all mostly, not all, mostly an illusion. Or no, what's the word? I was having a vision.
Yeah, go poke around out there in that spot.
Maybe I was having a vision. Maybe that was it, Mark. I need to think about that some more. But
maybe they've become your spirit guide.
Oh Lord. Wouldn't that be ironic? That my spirit guide became the yellow jacket.
Was a yellow jacket.
There could be some reasoning there. Actually, if I thought about that long enough, it might make sense.
You'd declare war on the Union.
Because I've certainly been in contact with them long enough. Do what?
I said, if you thought about it long enough, you'd declare war on the Union.
Endeavor to persevere. And after we had thought about it long enough, we decided to declare war on the Union. My mule didn't retire neither. Not retire. My mule didn't surrender neither. I bet they got him right now pulling a wagon up in Kansas. I think that's what he said, or was it Missouri?
His horse.
Well, his horse, whatever it was. Well, I thought it was a mule. But anyway, his horse.
My horse didn't surrender neither. They've got him pulling a cart up in Kansas, I bet.
What are you talking about, Yankees, John? Now, I didn't say Yankees, did I? What did I say? Was I
the Union?
Oh, the Union. Oh well, I actually claim that a lot of my kin fought for the North, and I'm proud of them. So
all of mine did.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. So you're
but I mean, they were from Eastern Kentucky, so
did none of them decide to go fight for the South?
Nope.
You know of?
Not a single one. They all were all in cavalry. We had like 5 cavalrymen, enlisted guys, and 1 infantry guy, and they all were in Kentucky regiments, and they were all attached to the Army of the Ohio under Grant.
The Tennessee, most of the Tennessee regiments were too. Maybe all of them were, for that matter. They changed that a couple of times. They had one that was like the Grand Army of Tennessee at one time, and then I think they merged all those into the Army of the Ohio or whatever.
But a lot of their neighbors, to the west especially, went the other way.
Yes, they did. Exactly. That's why I asked.
The hill people mostly fought for the North.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that on my dad's side of the family, it was either all or primarily Union that I know of so far. And on the South, I think I've got a mix. But I'm pretty sure some of those guys did were on on Mom's side, I think some of those folks did fight for the South, but I'm not sure, because we're, again, like you said, most of us hill folk up here fit for the Union, because they didn't want to. They weren't slave owners primarily, and really didn't even like slave owners, a lot of them.
But like the Hatfields and the McCoys there, and right on the border, on the tug, right there on the border between West Virginia and Kentucky, a lot of those people fought for the Confederacy.
Yeah. Well, it was a mixed bag for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've probably shown you this, but I probably hadn't shared it with everyone. Redlegs were a different kind of thing. They were sort of a irregular group, and I don't know if they were, how many states they had Redlegs groups in. I mean, when I say they weren't irregular, I think they were more.
The Redlegs were in Kansas.
Yeah, that's what I was. They were more like a militia group doing what you're saying.
The Redlegs were basically the antithesis to Quantrill.
Exactly.
And his boys out of Missouri.
Yeah, that's.
And they still hate each other.
And they were just as bad. Both of them were just as bad.
Yeah, they were both a bunch of criminals.
most of those guys were that group of people that we always kind of lumped it into. They're some law enforcement officers I've known in my life were right on that hairy edge of being on the other side, and that's kind of how those guys. They were more criminal than they were not, and they were looking for advantages to, take care of business. But that made me. I lost my train of thought. I'm trying to find the book, and I should have bought it years ago, and I never dreamed it would be rare at this point. But there's a book out that Cameron Judd wrote, who is a limestone author who wrote the best book about David Crockett I've ever read, I think. Probably the most accurate anyway. And he's written a bunch of other stuff, some of it, some fiction and some narrative, real stuff. But he wrote a book called The Bridge Burners. And it was all about the group of Union sympathizers up here who tried to burn out all the railroad trestles. They had a big plan on a certain night of a certain month that they were going to burn the trestles, so the Confederates couldn't transport their men or supplies on the railroad, because this end of the state was primarily Union group, or like I said, fought for the Union, or sympathizers is the word I'm looking for, Union sympathizers. And the Confederacy had a hell of a time keeping this end of the state under the thumb, because the Confederacy was solid in Knoxville, but once you got east of Knoxville, things changed, and the bridge burners were going to burn out all those bridges and stymie the southern movement of coming on up here into the far east and doing, taking over. I mean, they tried to secede from the Union again, or tried to form their own state, kind of like West Virginia did at one point. And,
with northern Alabama, the whole north half of Alabama and all of East Tennessee.
And western North Carolina, by and large.
And western North Carolina was going to be Nickajack.
Yeah, they were going to.
Which the Cherokees called that part of the world.
And I'm
going to go, buddy. I'm
going to go too. I
got a whole pile of stuff to do. Plus, I need to visit the little boy's room. So,
surely not. All right, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. Glad you're back.
I was here the whole time. I didn't just stop by.
Okay, true. Anyway, see ya.
See ya, everybody. Good to talk to everybody later on.
Tell Caitlin and Shauna I said hey. He probably missed that altogether. So I'm going to let everybody else go, which I'm getting out of here early, almost like a Baptist preacher here. I'm almost on time. So anyway, see you, John. See you, Brenda. See you, Tina. See you, Chuck. And Carol's already gone. I don't know, Kay, if you're still here. Thanks for coming by. If any of the Daves are still here, either of the Daves, I appreciate you coming by. And I hope you have a good, hopefully the Hurricanes won't get you this year. That's what I hope. Anyway, everybody have a great rest of their weekend. This isn't a special holiday or anything, is it? No, I don't think so. So, but be safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and see you next week. Because I don't have very many of you guys, so I can't afford to lose many. I'd be in trouble. Anyway, bye. Always got to remember.